Ron Ryals.
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great, man.
Good
I'm
deal.
Great. What have you been up to lately?
Getting ready for the big fishing season. We just finished up our first Bassmaster Eastern Open and just getting ready for the year and getting ready to work a bunch of shows and fish tournaments all over and do some guiding.
Yeah. And where do you do most of your guiding?
I guide at Bienville Plantation in White Springs mostly.
That place is amazing. I went
It is
there.
pretty neat.
I've been there once.
Yes, sir.
So how long have you been doing that?
I'm on my 23rd year guiding out there.
23rd year?
Yes, sir.
I bet you've seen some big bass come out of that place.
Oh, yeah.
What is the record?
The record out there is 1568 is our largest bass that's been caught out there.
Is that a live bait bass or a
Nope,
lure bass?
all artificial.
Really?
Yep.
Do they allow any live bait there?
No, we don't. We actually experimented with it for a year or so, and it wasn't that impressive. I mean, we seem to do better with artificial than we do with the live bait. So,
what does it take to grow a 15-pound bass?
Oh goodness, a lot of bait that they eat in the water and good nutrients in the lakes and stuff like that.
So, are you putting like shad in the lakes?
We have at times. We've moved them around from one lake to the other, or something like that when we needed to. But mainly just those lakes, those phosphate lakes are so rich in nutrients. They grow bait and grow vegetation and stuff so well that it's pretty impressive to watch them after they mine a new one, because they're still mining on some of the property, and it's neat to watch those lakes grow after they start mining. And when from when they start mining to when we stock them, if we have to stock them and all that stuff.
That seems like a pretty good opportunity for being a bass guide, to hook up with a place like Bienville 23 years ago. How did that happen?
It is. I mean, I was really young when I started, and I got really spoiled really quick of catching fish out there. They were in the new stages of building the plantation up and all that too, so I kind of got in at the the early stages of it and got to watch everything grow from there.
What did it look like in the beginning?
Oh my! Some of the lakes really were really neat. They were just dirt mounds and stuff before all the trees and vegetation started growing on them and all that. So it just looked different. It was kind of weird to see some of it, honestly.
Yeah. But was there potential for like big fish right away?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because of the water, like the phosphate lakes.
Well, the phosphate mines had been built. They had been mining since the 70s, I believe, sometime in the 70s, and the phosphate company still owned a lot of them. But now, and then Bienville bought a bunch of the lakes and a bunch of the property and started that. So a lot of the fish were already there that Bienville bought. So it was already a good fishery before that.
But some of those lakes have been like enhanced or crafted like to make it better for fishing and growing bass, right?
Well, now there's, I guess, the EPA regulations, something like that. They have to reclaim those lakes and make the slopes, certain things, plant vegetation, do different stuff with the water and water flow and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different regulations that they have to do, which in turn helps mold them for a great fishery.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like the regulations, are they like sometimes, the government might want certain things, but they don't know anything about growing big bass.
Right.
Where these regulations, are they like, do they help? Like
I think so.
Planting the stuff on the banks obviously is probably a benefit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It helps with erosion and filling in the lakes, and not to mention, just the stuff that goes down into the water after that. I mean, we do have a lot of hydrilla and a lot of cattails in those lakes, and it grows really fast, so we have to control that. But yeah, it definitely, the regulations seem to help, and makes it a great fishery.
That's cool. How many days out there do you guide a year?
Oh goodness, it varies from year to year depending on my tournament schedules and stuff. I mean, I've guided, I probably say on average probably 40 or 50 times a year, something like that, on average.
And then how many tournaments are you fishing?
Right now, just mainly focusing on the Eastern Opens, which is 4 tournaments a year, but they're scattered from Florida. We just started in Kissimmee, last week, I guess it was, or a week before last. And then we go all the way to New York. We're fishing in Oneida in Syracuse, New York. So that's gonna be a long trip.
What time of the year is that?
That'll be in August.
Man, I drove up to Syracuse, New York with my son to play lacrosse. It's a long way.
That is a long
It's a
drive,
long
pulling a boat
drive.
especially.
Yeah. I mean, that's like right on the Canadian border, kind of way up there. I
Yes.
didn't realize, like, at first. I look at the lacrosse schedule, and I was kind of like, okay, well, I guess we're going to New York. But then we keep going and keep going and keep going.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a long way up there.
Yeah, I want to say it was like 20 hours for us to drive from here, from Live Oak, where I live.
What's your travel gig look like? Do you stay in the truck, or you stay in hotels or campgrounds, or what do you do?
Sometimes we stay in hotels, like when we're on the road, just to and from, like Oneida, we'll have to stop and stay in a hotel. And got some good friends that we travel with. Hunter Bland is one that we travel with. Me and him travel together, and just we usually rent houses a lot of times on the lakes or close to the lake. That way it seems to be cheaper. You got everything right there. You can cook your own meals and stuff like that, and it's a lot more comfortable than a hotel.
Certainly better than a hotel. A lot of guys stay in the campgrounds, like starting to pull the RVs.
Yes, they are.
And then like Miles, my friend, he's got the what I consider. I've always wanted a rig like this. I'm super
nice.
jealous.
I saw pictures of it.
Like the in the bed camper with the over the top. I don't know what you call that. I guess it's like a truck bed camper.
Yeah, I think something similar to that.
So then he gets there and he takes that out and leaves it, and now you got your truck and you can pull the boat, which is a lot different than like driving an RV or like who was it that had that super rig many years ago, and like they were pull something, and
I think Randy Howell did that.
Howell,
yeah, he had like a big trailer.
It was called the Howell hauler.
The Howell hauler. Yeah,
they had it at ICAST one year. I was looking at that. That's when we were fishing the redfish tournaments. And I was like, oh,
pull your truck and boat inside of the trailer and pull it with like a big semi type thing.
Yeah. But there was only one problem with the redfish tournaments, is that the maximum that you could win was $50,000, and it was a 2-man team. So really, the maximum you could win was $25,000. And instead of like bass fishing, there were about 6 tournaments instead of a whole season full of tournaments.
Right.
So I'm looking at that going, that's super nice, and I would love to have that, but there's just no way.
Right.
But the Howell hauler, does he still have that thing?
I don't know, but I don't think so. I mean, he hadn't posted any pictures or anything lately.
That thing was unbelievable.
It was pretty impressive.
That was unbelievable. You see, you have a Wiley X hat on.
Yes, sir.
You wear those glasses?
I have. I've been wearing Wiley X's for probably 10 years or better now, I think.
We just switched over to them.
Yeah.
And I love them. I mean, I really, really like them. I wear this one. What is the one that you've got?
I wear the Omegas. I've been wearing those a lot lately, and you've got the Valors there.
I like the Valor and the Saint. I've always liked the ones with no rim at the bottom. I don't know why. I can just see kind of a black line under there, that it's a little bit distracting for me. And the rimless ones are better, but man,
that's the good part about the Wiley X's. They've got so many different styles and all. You can find one to fit your face or your personal preference and all that. It's a really, really great line of glasses.
Have you tried the ones with the little gasket inside?
I have. Yeah, I wear some of the ones with the gaskets in it. They're great for running on the boats and stuff. You don't get the air coming in and your eyes watering and stuff like that. And they seal to your face just like a goggle almost does, but you don't have a strap holding them on. They just do it the way they're built.
Those too, and they're both out in Montana, and they do a lot of skiing, and they were like, man, these are perfect for spring skiing, because they'll just ski like sometimes they go out there in shorts, and then because it's like in March or whatever, and it's 50 degrees,
right? But
you're on this mountain and the wind's not blowing, and it's like what they call spring skiing. I guess it's really warm. But everything gets less. Like instead of the big goggles, they'll go with sunglasses and light jacket instead of a whole snowsuit or whatever. But yeah, I've liked those. A bunch. So you're just now getting started with your season for
pretty much. It just started last week, and we're kicked off with that, and then do a lot of local tournaments too. We do some benefit tournaments scattered around, and we also got we work at the Bassmaster Classic for different sponsors and stuff like that. And then later in the year we got ICAST, like you were saying too, and so it's a busy year. It looks really busy.
Yeah. And are you married?
I am married. Been married for almost 17 years now.
Really?
This
Congratulations.
This year will be 17.
That's
so
awesome.
Thank you.
And so does she go with you sometimes?
She gets to travel to some of the tournaments depending on her job schedule and all, but she gets to travel as much as she can with us anyway.
So has fishing always been like, since you've known her, has fishing always been like a big part of your life?
Yes, it has. It's been with guiding and all. We met, I guess, 19 years ago, so I'd already been guiding and fishing some tournaments and all that, and it's been a huge part of what we do.
Yeah. And she's always been supportive?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. She's been great.
Yeah. What does she do for a living?
She manages a couple of stores and a bulk plant for a oil company out of Gainesville,
Okay.
a petroleum company.
Does that give her some time to go with you?
She just actually started this job back in April or May, so she changed jobs. So she's working on getting vacation and stuff like that. So she hadn't been there a year yet to get all the vacations. But before, at her other job working for a bank, she got quite a bit of vacation and got to travel with us quite a bit.
That's cool.
Yes, sir.
So I can't help but notice that you rolled up here in your wheelchair.
Yes, sir.
So I'm interested in your story, like how you turned into a fishing guide and how all this happened for you.
Gotcha. I became paralyzed after complications from open heart surgery when I was 5 years old. So it was, really young in life and never knew any different. And I think that's really a good thing, I guess, if it's going to happen. It happened to me when I was so young.
Right.
So that helped me a lot in the long run. And my parents always helped me do anything I wanted to do and just kind of pushed me, not necessarily pushed me, but just helped me do anything in the outdoors, from fishing to hunting, and do anything I can do. And that just made all the difference in the world. And I just kind of carried that on, I guess, through life.
Was outdoors always a big part of your family's tradition?
Mainly mainly hunting. Fishing came in a little later on. My dad actually helped me get my first boat, and we started going to tournaments, disabled tournaments. I started fishing some of those. The paralyzed veterans actually do a disabled trail that's all over the country. And I remember, I was 14, 15 years old, that Dad would take me down to Sanford to fish on the St. Johns River at one of the PVA tournaments. And you don't have to be a veteran to fish those. Anybody disabled can. So, that's how I was able to fish them. And they still do them to this day.
Yeah.
And I still fish some of them every now and then, even with everything else going on. So it's really cool tournaments and stuff like that, and started that. But we had always hunted. I had hunted since I was, right after I became, paralyzed and got put in a wheelchair. And then the fishing started, like I said, later on. So it's all the outdoors have always been a big part of my life.
Yeah. So when you were 5, what led to having open heart surgery?
I believe coarctation of the aorta is how it's actually worded or whatever. But basically, valve in my heart wasn't working and opening properly. And that was what I was born with that, and they had to wait until I was 5 to do the surgery until I got old enough.
Right. And then there was a complication there, and that's when you lost the use of your legs.
Yes, sir.
And so that's when, like, did your dad think, okay, well, hunting is something that we can do together, or
yeah, I'm sure it was. I mean, it's crazy. We never really talked about it. We just always did it, and I guess, it was just something for us to get away, and, you don't have to necessarily have use of your legs to go hunting or whatever. Right. and all. So.
Yeah. And what would you hunt mostly, like deer, turkeys?
Mainly deer. We did a little bit of turkey hunting. That was mainly kind of something that I liked more than he did, but mainly with deer hunting.
You like turkeys more than your dad?
I like the turkey hunt more than my dad for sure.
I like turkey hunting more than my dad too.
Really?
Well, I think turkey hunting's kind of like, I equate it to like fishing. Like, there's a type of fishing that I like to do, which is permit fishing, and the permit is a fish that you see before you catch it usually. Right. And it's shy. And you can, if you just storm in there, you're going to scare them all. Right. So you got to kind of, you might see them coming, and you can pull up in front of them and kind of wait for them to come to you, and you can see them. Tarpon fishing's a lot the same, and
Right.
bone fishing's a lot the same, but the permit is just more shy, right? And they're
They're a
but
little
they're
more
also
spooky.
smarter, right?
Yeah.
Like they have a good eyeball and they can see you, and they don't tolerate, like, a lot of times a tarpon will see you and he's not going to eat, but he'll just swim right on by you, right? And he's not going to eat it. But a permit is just like, nope, I'm out. And
See ya.
so I see that with turkeys too, that turkeys are kind of like that. And I always kind of, the first time I ever went turkey hunting, I was like, wow, this is like permit fishing. And that's why I liked it.
Right.
More. Where deer hunting, I don't know. I fall asleep real easy if I sit in one place. If I sit in one place for too long, I fall asleep. And I think, some people call it narcolepsy. I've been to the doctor and I don't actually have narcolepsy, but he said I have a lot of the symptoms of being narcoleptic.
Oh, goodness.
And so I'm afraid I'm going to fall out of the tree stand.
That would be bad.
Yeah. But I mean, I know enough about what deer hunting is all about and how long you need to sit in that tree stand. And especially if it's cold and you got like a nice warm jacket on and everything's good.
Oh, yeah.
I'll go to sleep
Yeah.
right away.
Yeah, if you get too comfortable up there, I could do the same thing. That's for
if
sure.
I fall asleep turkey hunting, I just lay down on the ground, and the worst thing that can happen is I'm covered with ticks.
That's not very good either.
I don't like the ticks.
That's better than falling out of a tree stand, though.
I know. I don't want to fall out of the tree stand, so I kind of don't deer hunt as much, but I like the turkey hunting.
Gotcha.
I like the turkey hunting a lot. So when you started fishing these tournaments as a kid, did you ever think that this is a way that you would pursue?
No, not really at all.
So when did that change?
Well, when I fished the tournaments as a kid, I was a non-boater. I didn't, I was going as a co-angler or whatever. Didn't have a boat. I mean, we had a little John boat, and that was it. That's what me and Dad fished out of or whatever when we did go. But as I got older, got out of high school, started working a job for a family friend of ours and saved up some money, and then Dad helped me get a small bass boat. It was like a 17-foot bass boat, and started fishing a couple local tournaments at a little lake right down the road from my house, and ended up meeting a couple of guys that guided out at Bienville. They had just started, and they kind of said, hey, we need some guides. We're getting this thing off the ground, and went out there and actually started guiding, when I was like 18 years old. So
wow.
It's been a while that I've been doing that, and it just kind of grew from there. And then the bigger tournaments, I got to watching, the bigger tournaments and stuff like that, and just got really interested in those instead of local, and started wanting to do regional stuff, and even after that, national stuff now.
Uh-huh.
So it's just grown. It's a slow process, I guess, for me. I didn't get into it young like some of the other guys on a bigger scale, but it's still, still something I definitely want to do. I want to compete, and I love competing on the tournaments and stuff. That's a cool adrenaline rush and fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So how many tournaments do you think you'll do a year?
I usually only probably 8 or 10, just because of travel with the opens. I mean, they're basically a AAA. The Bassmaster Eastern Opens are almost like a AAA tournament level, and trying to build from that. And they're expensive,
Yeah,
and a lot of travel.
I'm gonna ask, like, how do you manage the expenses? And
that's from guiding. That's make the money guiding to help out with that, and do have some sponsors that help out with some of the stuff too.
Yeah, it's a tough way, man. I mean, like,
Yes,
we tried to do it on the redfish tournaments, like I was saying, and they're just the sport wasn't mature enough to really support professional teams.
Gotcha.
There was maybe one or two, like the Watts brothers. They were doing it, and I don't think that they were doing anything else. But I don't know that when I was doing it, that there was another team, not a single other team that was doing nothing but fishing professional redfish tournaments.
Right.
It just wasn't mature enough. And then you had that was when the IFA started, and then there was the ESPN Redfish Cup, and so now you had 2 tournament trails.
Right.
And so then it was like, okay, I see. Now there's 12 tournaments, and maybe you could make that happen. But when the sport's like in its infancy and there's not enough money in it, that makes it real tough. Everybody else was fishing guides,
Right.
Like it was just whoever all the teams were fishing guides. What do you see at that level? Like you called it a AAA level. What do you are most people like working some other kind of job? Or are they guides? Or are they doing?
It's a little bit of everything, honestly. We get them from guys that just want to fish the opens, or there is a lot of guys that want to qualify for the Elite Series, which is the Bassmaster Elite Series is a very high level of fishing competition, and that's the only way to qualify, or one of the few ways to qualify for the elites is through the open. So we actually get guys from the elites that need to requalify or want to requalify, all the way to the guys that are just wanting to do it because they can compete against those guys too.
Right.
So it's
what
it's
does it
a
take
fast
to qualify?
For the elites.
Yeah.
You have to finish in the top 4 in either the Eastern Division or the Central Division. Or this year, they're actually going to putting the points together from both of those divisions, and the top 4 qualify of the combined points. So there's
3 different ways.
There's 3 different ways through the opens to qualify.
And then what are the other ways that you could qualify?
One way is through the Bass Nation Championship. You can qualify through that. If you win that, I believe you get an Elite Series invite also.
So that's only one guy's going to get that.
That's one guy,
Okay,
and
that
then,
seems like a tough way to go.
that is a very that's the toughest way to go, honestly, because that's your weekend anglers from all over the world, really, because there's some from Mexico and a few other countries that actually qualify for that. So, and it's a small list that actually qualifies for that out of the thousands of anglers that try to every year.
Right, and then there's the federation. Does that
that's the Bass Nation is what was the Bass Federation.
So that's why people love Ike and Ellie so much, because he was that one guy, right?
he was the one of the guys that qualified through that. Brandon Palnick actually also qualified through that. He won the Bass Nation Championship in 2010, I believe it was. I think so. I think it was 2010.
So that really
qualified.
It might be the hardest way to go, but that's quite a springboard, because now you have this army of people that are like, man, that could be me.
Right.
Like that, like Brandon Palnick, he's one of the most popular.
Yeah,
Ike and Ellie's one of the most popular of all time. And it's like, I guess a big part of that is that they qualified through, and everybody that's doing that knows how hard that was to qualify.
Yeah,
not that the Bass Open, like the Open isn't, but it seems like there's more opportunity. There's 4 spots in 2 different
4
divisions.
out of 200 or so, 225. There was 225 boats in our first tournament down in Kissimmee. So 4 spots out of that, and through the Bass Nation, you're talking thousands and thousands that try to qualify for the Bass Nation Championship, which is, I'm not sure how many they're letting into that now. But I mean, there's thousands of anglers that fish across the world that try to qualify for that. So it's a big deal.
So then once you get into the elite tournaments, what does it take to stay there?
That's a good question. I mean, you have to finish
so many points.
Yeah, it's a point system through the year, and I'm not sure exactly what place you have to finish. They guarantee so many spots for the next year, and then like we said, there's 12 spots through the opens. But I wish I could remember all the numbers now. I haven't went over them. They've changed some stuff lately, and I haven't really went over the numbers to stay in it. But it's through a point system, and you've got to have a pretty good year, honestly, to requalify through the elites automatically.
Yeah. And then if you don't, you're going right back to Bass Nation or the
opens. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So what's your best year in the opens?
Last year was actually my best year. I finished 60th in points, which, for me, I've only been fishing them full time for 4 years, so I was pretty proud of that.
Yeah.
For the points year, and I've seen the progression of getting better and learning more, and just kind of paying attention to what everybody else is, kind of how they manage their practice time and stuff like that. So that's helped.
What are the regulations on practice?
For the opens, there's no cutoff time, so we can pre-fish for a month before it if we wanted to. But on the Monday, starting the Monday before the tournament, on the majority of them, you can't fish with anybody or get any info from anybody that is not in the tournament.
Right.
But pre-fishing, there's not really a time limit that we can, not fish the lakes before the tournament.
Yeah. That seems like a big difference between it, and that's different between that and the Elite Series, right?
Yes, there's only like 3 days of practice, of official practice, and they have a really long off limits that they can't get any info or be on the water before that. So, yeah, there's a big jump there.
So, have you seen that some people will take advantage of that no cutoff and do really well in tournaments? Like, well, that guy's been living here for a month.
There is guys that do that,
because that's what was happening in the redfish tournaments. I mean, and some people would they would go there and they would spend a month.
Yeah,
and they would know everything what was going on with those fish, and it's a huge advantage. But then they wouldn't have the advantage at the next location, right? Because they spend all their time
there. Yep.
So there's this.
That's about the same way with us too. I mean, like we said, there's guys that spend a month, but they don't necessarily. Sometimes they do really good. Sometimes they don't. It varies from tournament to tournament, especially the early ones. Especially in Florida, when you get like a cold front, or if you get something like that, conditions change so much in the early part of the year that you can get some patterns down, but it's still, there's a lot of other variations in there too, that things that change, a lot of other variables.
Yeah. It's a funny way to make a living, man. It really is. It's I don't know. There are very few people that can make a living, kind of like golf almost too. Like, very few people that are making a living only on course income. They're probably like in the Open Series, I would imagine that there are very few people that are making enough money through winning.
I don't know that there any of them are, honestly.
So what do you
besides the guys that are already on the Elites or on the FLW Pro Circuit now, or Pro Series, I think they're calling it, or something like that.
So you've got your gig at Bienville.
Mm-hmm.
And then is that enough between that and the tournaments to make it through the year? Or is there
it's
more?
Close. Like it's close, honestly. Like I said, having good sponsors and stuff like that help out with products and income at shows, because working like ICAST shows, we get paid for going there, for working for sponsors, or the Bassmaster Classic for the outdoor expo and stuff. We get stuff for that. We get compensated for that too. So it's you have to stay busy to make it in this industry for sure.
You definitely have to stay busy. How did you learn how to do that?
Honestly, I worked some shows when I was, just starting and getting into that, and I just watched the other guys. I've been lucky enough to become friends with Gerald Swindle, and he's probably one of the hardest working guys that's on the Elite Series. And been traveling, the country doing this stuff for years. And I got to watch him early on. And he is probably one of the ones that actually got me interested in this more, because watching how busy he was and just to make it through that stuff. And I mean, he was one of the first ones I saw that had sponsors all over his jersey. And I was like, dang, man, you don't have any room left. He's like, hey, we've got to work hard or we don't make it in this thing. And it kind of, helped me, realize all that years ago when I first met him.
And he's been kind of a mentor?
Kind of, yeah. We've hung out quite a bit, and I learned from him and another guy named Marty Stone that actually isn't fishing really anymore. He's one of the on the water analysts for Major League Fishing, and Marty has helped me through the years to also kind of learn the industry.
What do you think the biggest lessons that you've taken away from either one of those guys are?
That's a tough question. There's been so many, honestly. But one thing is just be yourself, and don't try to be something you're not. Just go and be yourself, and people like you for who you are, and just work hard, honestly, and just stay busy.
Yeah. Well, Gerald Swindle, I don't know Marty, but I do know a lot about Gerald, and he has definitely stayed busy, and that's certainly a good person to learn from.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's got all the right sponsors, and he's also had a tremendous career in winnings and stuff.
Yes, he has. He really has, and you know, and just his personality is just everybody is drawn to him because of his personality, and it's so cool to watch him around people too. It's amazing to see how all that works. And
He used to be on TV a lot, like when Bass was still on ESPN, and they had what was that show, Pimp My Boat, and he was on that a lot. I think
something like that.
There were always things going on.
Oh yeah,
where he was always on TV. That's cool. So, do you have any other projects that you work on outside of fishing?
Well, we're actually just announcing the college, being a college coach at Florida Gateway College in Lake City, and that's going to be a fun gig. That seems like, you know, it's going to be really good, and got some great people around me. I mean, Hunter Bland that you've done a podcast with, and Shaw Grigsby is, and Rob Chapman. Rob's, you know, really great with the social media and all that, and Hunter and Shaw just for their fishing knowledge and their social media stuff, and just their, you know, the people that they are just awesome to be around and be a part of.
So how did that come together for you to be part of that?
Well, I've done some stuff with Rob Chapman in the past for the last few years. He actually wrote an article on me, and we fished together quite a bit, and he was, you know, kind of the driving force at the college, him being employed at the college also. And he started it, you know, getting to the attention of the administrators at the college, and started selling it to them, and it's grown in a hurry. I mean, we've only been talking about this a few weeks now, and now we're us three, you know, 4 coaches, and it's getting kicked off in a hurry.
That's great. So how many anglers do you anticipate having?
We're probably going to try to do up to 10, something like that. If we can get 6 to 10, somewhere in that range, and, you know, have up to 5 teams, it will be a huge first year for us. So hopefully that we can accomplish that.
And then, have you worked with Shaw Grigsby before?
Not necessarily worked with him. We've just known each other. I mean, he lives in Gainesville, just south of us, and he's done some shows and stuff at Benville in the past, and just been, you know, associated with him in that, and been friends with him from that the last 15 or so years at least, I'd say.
Man, he's something.
He is.
I really have had a lot of respect and admiration for him over the years. That was the first television show I ever did, was Shaw Grigsby's One More Cast. That was my introduction to television. And Shaw at the time, if I'm not mistaken, his show was on TNN on Monday nights, and we did a Barracuda show out of Key West, and we went and had a great day. Caught a bunch of big cudas. He wanted to catch a 20-pounder, and nice. I think we ended up catching a 20-pounder. It made for a nice show, and I had no idea what was going to happen, none whatsoever. And this is back in the day of answering machines with cassette tapes in them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's how I had it. And I remember getting home from fishing one time, and I didn't know that the show had been on the air. And I think it came on the air on New Year's Day. And I was fishing so much back then, I was fishing on New Year's Day. And I didn't actually see it come on for the first time. And I look at the answering machine, and never before had it been like this, but there was a red light that I didn't even know was on there. And it was like tape full. And I'd never seen that flashing before. And I was like, what's going on? So I hit play, and it's like, hey, just saw you on Shaw Grigsby's show. And next one. Saw you on Shaw Grigsby's show. Next one. Saw you on Shaw Grigsby's show. Next one. I want a barracuda fish. Next one. And it filled up the whole tape.
Nice.
And then I put a new tape in there and filled that tape up. And the phone never stopped ringing. And of course, I couldn't take all those people.
Right.
Like, there's only so many days you can take somebody fishing. But I just couldn't believe that someone could have, or one show could have, that kind of impact.
Absolutely.
And man, that's when I decided, I think I might want to do some TV. It was right there on that show. And still to this day, I don't think that we've ever done a television show that had that kind of a response. But back in those days, TNN had a bigger audience.
Oh yeah,
That
they
was,
had a
I mean,
huge
like if
audience
you
back then.
talk about the good old days of fishing television, that was it. I mean,
That
it was like
yeah.
Bill Dance, Shaw Grigsby, maybe Roland Martin, all three back to back on
I think
Monday
Orlando
nights.
Wilson was thrown in there at some
Probably.
point in time too, I believe.
Probably.
Yep.
Orlando Wilson, man, I hadn't thought about him in a long time. He used to catch some big fish.
Yes, he did.
He did. But that show with Shaw Grigsby, that was something, man. I mean,
For that to be your first show, that's a good one to start with.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is like that Shaw didn't even call me. The producer of his show called my friend, and my friend was like, "Yeah, I don't know if I want to do this. Like, maybe call this other guy." And so he gave it to me. It was Marshall Cutchin. Marshall Cutchin, he was like all into fly fishing for permit, and he didn't really want to do a spin fishing show for barracudas. I was like, I'll do a spin fishing show for barracudas. I think that'd be awesome. Like, it sounds good. And so we did that. But Shaw just like I remember him pulling in, and he had a white Ford Econoline van with no windows in it, and the whole side. No, it did have windows. It was like a customized Choo Choo Customs van, but the whole side, it was before wraps,
Right.
but it had a giant Quantum sticker on the side of it. Giant. And I was just like, whoa. I mean, nobody had anything like this. Nobody. And he pulls in, he's towing his boat. And I was like, you drive a van, huh? He's like, yeah, this is the best way. I sleep in here. I do all this. He pulls out, he's like, what kind of rods are we going to use? I was like, like a 7-foot medium heavy. And he pulls out about 60 rods and puts them on the side of his van. And I was like, wow, this guy's got it figured out, man.
Exactly.
He knows something that I don't know. And I'm going to find out what it is. And he was kind enough to share a lot of things that I didn't know. But that's going to be a great experience, not only for the students, but also for the coaches, for you and Hunter and Rob to be gathering some information from Shaw, because he's a lifetime of information.
We will learn a lot from Shaw this year, I'm sure.
Yeah. How do you see a bass fishing team, like the organization? I talked to Hunter about it a little bit, but like, do you think you'll have like practices and like a set meeting time? And are you gonna mirror like what other sports do? Like,
I'm sure we will. We're gonna have to. The good part is we get to set all that up the way we want to. It'll be in a new program, and there's gonna be some practice days, and we're having to work with the college about accommodations and stuff. Whether we can, if they have to stay in a hotel, or we can rent a house, or what we need to do. So it's gonna be a learning process for all of us in that part also. But we're gonna set it up. We're gonna mirror some of the stuff. I mean, Hunter's got the experience from the University of Florida that he did, and that's gonna help us tremendously to get some of the stuff set up. But the kids will go out and they'll get to practice and spend some time on the water, on the lakes and stuff like that, and learn as much on the lakes, because I guess there's actually tournaments all over the place, for them. It depends on how much we can, fund with travel and stuff like that also through the college to get to see what different lakes they get to fish and all.
If you could blue sky it and just think about that opportunity being the best for this year that you could possibly imagine it to be, what would you think would be your kind of vision of total success for this program this year?
Total success just for the year, I would say if we can get 5 teams, that would be a huge success. I think more realistically, we could probably get, 2 to 3 to begin with, and get them to compete and just be competitive at that level, and getting it off the ground, and just get some recognition, maybe and maybe some articles around, or more podcasts possibly, or something like that, to get the kids some recognition and get the college's name out there also. That would be a huge success for the first year, I think.
Yeah, well, that seems incredibly realistic. I mean, especially with the draw that you have with the coaches, yourself and Rob and Hunter, and then of course Shaw Grigsby. I would imagine
absolutely
there's some kid out there that would whatever school he's going to now and go
we've,
there.
we've got quite a few adults that want to do the same thing. Matter of fact, I'd like
How
to
many
do
years
it.
of eligibility do you have left?
Exactly.
I wonder, is there even that? Like, maybe you could just do it. Like,
we actually talked about that in our meeting, and I think there is something with eligibility there, but there is a possibility. But I think
I still have some eligibility left.
There you go.
I'll come back. I'll come back, and I'm not even that interested in fishing the tournaments. I'll just sit in on the seminars.
Just want to be a fly on the wall for the meetings. I agree.
I know enough about this business and enough about this lifestyle to realize that there's a whole lot about it that I don't know and that I sure would like to know. And you've got a guy that knows a lot.
A lot, that's for sure. Yeah,
and I would imagine it's probably going to be pretty easy for Shaw to ask any of his friends to come in as a guest lecturer at any time. And you got Roland Martin all of a sudden doing a little clinic there or something. I mean,
yeah, there's no telling.
I mean, that just seems like a natural. Those guys are good friends, and he's all around. And people like to share. People like to share, and given the opportunity to share what they know to help other people, I would think that you would have a lot of people, a lot of, Shaw's friends and contemporaries that would love to come there and share.
Absolutely.
Like what they know.
Especially with a growing program and getting the younger kids involved. I mean, they're college age kids, but they're still younger from what I am and what, Shaw and them are. Just everybody wants the kids to keep the sport going, and we've got to have that. If we don't, it'll go away.
Do you see that bass fishing in college bass fishing is growing quicker than any other
I think it is
segment of bass fishing?
I think so. It's gotten huge in the last few years, and there's a possibility of qualifying for the Bassmaster Classic through the college fishing deal. So
really?
That's a huge deal there.
Wow. Man, that would be nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
That'd be like, all of a sudden, I can't even imagine backing your trailer down the ramp at the Bassmaster Classic. You're the only 18-year-old kid there.
Exactly.
And you're going down the ramp like a snake. Like, oh, my God. Sorry, Gerald Swindle. Sorry, Kevin Van Dam. I didn't mean to hit your trailer. Like,
I would have to find somebody to back me down at that age.
I always think about
when I was that age.
Quarterbacks. Like, you see these true freshman quarterbacks, and you're watching on television, and they're at some packed stadium, and you're like, last year that kid was playing in front of 500 people.
Yeah.
What would that be like? Like, that's what that would be like.
That's what it would be
backing
like.
your trailer down the ramp at 4:00 in the morning in front of all the everybody you've been watching for the rest of your life.
And the crowds of people everywhere. I mean, it's the classic launches are impressive with all the people and spectators and stuff. Not to mention the competitors.
Yeah, that's I don't know, man. You gotta always get your little system down about how you back in and get your boat out and all that. What's your system for that?
I just have I just have a routine that I do, from unhooking the straps on the boat and getting the motor support off the boat and putting the plug in and stuff like that. So I just have just a routine that I've done for years and just go from there, honestly.
Yeah. And so you back down and like once it comes off the trailer, like then what for you?
With me personally, a lot of times I'll get somebody, me and Hunter have worked great together. He's been a huge help to me the last couple of years traveling together. But he'll actually, help me back down, and then I'll, beach my boat and grab his boat or something like that, or load his boat at times, or we help each other more than anything. That's been a huge help to me. So
yeah, that's cool.
There's a few ramps that I can do it by myself, like if it's it depends on the dock situation and stuff like that, but mainly get somebody to help me more than anything.
Yeah. What are the places that you like to go more than others? Like, is there a certain type of fishing that, because you've spent so much time at Bienville or you're a Florida angler, is there something that you look for more so than
I
others?
love the last couple of years we've got to go to like New York and stuff like that and catch smallmouth. Smallmouth bass fishing is just it's so fun. They fight so good and they all the jumping and stuff, and it's just a blast. They're a real aggressive fish. You know, the Florida strain largemouth can get real lethargic and they just kind of, you know, or get lazy during a cold front or something like that, or during the summer. But smallmouth, they're just aggressive and fun.
Yeah. And can you win with a well full of smallmouth, or are there certain tournaments where that's the
certain
only
places
thing
you
you're
can.
fishing for?
In certain lakes you can win definitely with smallmouth.
You can bring back multiple species, right?
Yeah, you can.
It's just 5 bass limit.
5 bass. Usually it's like spotted bass if there's spotted bass in the lakes, largemouth, smallmouth. And I believe there was one of the tournaments we fished last year, they had mean mouth, and we could weigh those in, but they
What's
had
a
to be.
mean mouth?
What does it mean? It's a mix between a spot and a smallmouth, I believe. I think that's what it is.
Really?
And I've never seen one personally.
I haven't
I've
either.
seen pictures of them because I had to look them up after they told us we could weigh them in at the tournament. I was like, okay, that's what it looks like.
If that's on the thing, you're just like, any weird fish is going in the live
Exactly. The bad part is they had to be 18 inches to weigh them in, and so it'd have been a pretty good one.
Yeah.
But that was on Lake Chickamauga last year when we fished that.
They
told
have
us
those in Lake Chickamauga,
that's
and
what,
I've never
that's
even
what
heard
they
of
said.
it.
That's what they said.
A mean mouth.
Yep.
Wow. I'm going to have to do some research on that, because like just a little bit further south, you actually have the red-eye bass, which
Right.
is like around the Birmingham area,
Mhm.
and that's the only place. Like that's
Right.
a really good world record to go for,
Right.
because it's only right there. Like so,
It's kind of like our Swanee bass at the
Yeah.
Swanee River where I live at, and that's the only place they are.
how big
is-
do those get?
I want to say the record's in the upper 3-pound range, so
Yeah.
not very big, honestly.
Yeah. So what would it take to? I mean, is that like is a 3-pounder, like in your experience of fishing there your whole life? Is that like a 30-pound bass? Or is
Yeah,
that...
basically, a 3-pound Swanee bass is like catching a 12 or a 13-pound largemouth.
Wow.
Something like that. It's huge.
Yeah. So maybe that's not the easiest record. It's a really difficult record, but
Yeah,
at
but
least
it's-
they're only in one
Yeah,
place.
exactly. They're regulated or not regulated, but they're just concentrated in those few little rivers and tributaries of certain places.
Do they look almost like a largemouth?
They look a little more like a smallmouth kind of.
really?
They don't have the brown color. They're greener, but they have the darker lines and darker backs and stuff, and they don't get the lateral line almost like you can see on the largemouth as much and stuff. So it's
Is that water clear, like where you would fish for them in the Swanee River?
in one of the rivers it is.
I've
In the
never
Santa
been-
Fe
I've
River,
never
it's
been
crystal
on
clear
that
at
river,
times.
but I'd pass over it on the
Oh
highway,
yeah.
and it looks like it's dark, clear
Yeah, the Swanee
water.
River is more the tannic, dark water,
Yeah.
but a couple of the rivers that lead into it, like the Santa Fe River, it's really clear at times of the year, depending on how much rain we get.
Bet they'd be spooky in there.
They can be, but it's not as bad as you would think, really.
Huh.
And,
So do you think that the 3-pounder comes from the darker water or the clear water?
probably the darker water, I would imagine, because once they get big, they get a little smarter.
Yeah. Man, that seems like
We'll
a
have to go
good
do that
record.
sometime.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's sometimes you look at the record books and you think, well, it seems like a doable record. Like we used to do that a lot with. We were very fortunate in Key West where we had so many species that we could fish for, and almost all of them are in the record book.
Yeah.
And so you just study the record book and you would be like, okay, there's a ton of Spanish mackerel around right now, and they seem pretty big. So
Yeah.
let's go back and look at all the line class. And you're like, oh, those are all heavy. What if we did it on fly? And then you look and you're like, oh, hey,
Well,
look, if you could
that's
catch
possible.
a 4-pounder on 4-pound fly, that's a world record.
Right.
And there's, all the fish I'm seeing are like 5.5 pounds. So it's not going to be a problem finding one. It's going to be a problem catching
getting
the
him in the
right
boat.
one.
Yeah.
I mean, like all of them are the right one,
Right.
but on 4-pound fly or whatever, they all have teeth, and it just takes one thing to nick into the leader, and it's over. I mean, that's like hair. And so I would always like to target those. Like you just look through those records and you could find one that was doable. I even know one guy, Robert Trossett. He set probably, I think the last time I talked to him, he had like 180 world records, and he's from Key West. Well, there's a lot of different fish to fish for, and there's fly and all tackle and class, and so but at one point, I remember there was this banquet, and he was giving away a trip, and he guaranteed you a world record. And
Wow.
that's when I was like, that guy knows stuff that other people don't know too. There's another one that knows stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was like, how can you guarantee a world record? He's like, there's tons of them that nobody's even entered one into.
Gotcha.
But that was back then. Now I think it's gotten a little bit more competitive as far as that goes. But still, if you could guarantee a world record, you're doing something right.
Yeah, you've got something figured out. And figuring fish out is, once you think you got them figured out, they'll do something different. So
yeah, no kidding. I mean, that is kind of the thing. Like, it's a cyclical education. As soon as you think that you've got any of this fishing stuff figured out, then
absolutely,
you're in for a tough lesson.
You can never stop learning in this industry. It's not possible. If you do, you're not going to last in it much after that.
Do you have any lessons that you've learned like that kind of surprised you at all?
I'm sure I do. Just can't think of any right off the top of my head, honestly. Not that I can think of, honestly, but I'm sure they're there. I just can't put it together right now.
Yeah. So as far as this, your college coaching and the tournaments go, like, you think that this is going to be a really good year for you?
I think so. It started off really good at Kissimmee at our first tournament. I know we talked about that, and it just I hope we got some momentum. I finished 37th in the tournament down there, so hopefully got some momentum and got good traveling partners and all that stuff that we hang out with and share information and help each other on the lake. So
it's a big part of it, isn't it? Like having a network of people that you share information with.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a huge part of it, and I think that's one thing that's me and Hunter are really big on this is with the college kids, we want them to share information also, because I think the better they'll do, the more information they share, and can't keep it to themselves and hope just one team does good. We want them all to succeed in it and be good at it. So hopefully that'll help.
That being any sort of an issue with young kids that are wanting to win?
I hope not, but it could be. But in the fishing industry, there's a lot of people want to keep secrets, and it's always been that way. Not many people want to share information out there, but if they can have a tight knit group and share it between themselves and know that they're all going to work together, I think we can do really good with that, and I think the kids will do really good.
All right. Well, how do people follow you, find you on social media or whatever you do?
I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Ron Ryals. And there's also, you can follow us on Bassmaster.com at the next open and watch the weigh-ins and stuff like that.
All right. And they just look for your name?
Look for my name and Hunter's and everybody else's out there, and watch the weigh-ins and enjoy it.
If you had somebody that was interested in maybe fishing in college, maybe interested in going to your university, how would they look that up?
At Florida, you could check it out at Florida Gateway College. I don't think it's up yet, but we're in the process of getting all that online and on the Florida Gateway College social media, or contact one of the coaches on social media, and we'll be glad to help you any way we can.
Okay. All right. Well, good luck to you and all of these things that you got going on, man.
Thank you.
I'm sure it's going to be a great year for you. I appreciate you doing this with me.
I appreciate you having me.
All right. Thanks.